Warm welcome, you are watching To The Point. I'm Preeti Chaudhary. It was the 42nd foundation day for the Bharatiya Janata Party. The Prime Minister was the one who spoke to the leaders of the BJP, but also hammered on one claim, which he does all the time, viewers. When the BJP came back after retaining 4 states in the recently concluded elections, he'd said the same thing. There are 2 kinds of politics, Rashtravaad and Parivarvaad.
The occasion, 42nd foundation day of the Bharatiya Janata Party. The attendees, a swath of BJP leadership in saffron caps. The Sutradhar, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The moot point, Parivarvaad versus Rashtravaad.
अभी भी देश में 2 तरह की राजनीति चल रही है। एक राजनीति है परिवार भक्ति की और दूसरी है राष्ट्र भक्ति की। अलग अलग राज्यों में हमारे यहां कुछ राजनीतिक दल है जो सिर्फ और सिर्फ अपने अपने परिवार के हितों के लिए काम करते हैं।
The man credited to have scripted the BJP's current state of political dominance hailed the nationalist politics of BJP while slamming dynastic politics.
इन परिवारवादी पार्टियों ने देश के युवाओं को भी कभी आगे नहीं बढ़ने दिया। उनके साथ हमेशा विश्वासघात किया है। भाजपा ही इकलौती पार्टी है जो इस चुनौती से देश को सजग कर रही है, सतर्क कर रही है। देश के युवा अब धीरे धीरे ये समझने लगे हैं कि किस तरह परिवारवादी पार्टियां लोकतंत्र की सबसे बड़ी दुश्मन है।
The BJP Foundation Day comes at a time when the party has retained power in 4 states. It comes at a time as BJP becomes the first party in 3 decades to have 100 MPs in Rajya Sabha. It also comes at a time when the BJP is facing an all-out attack by the opposition on price rise, polarization and unemployment. The opposition went after the BJP on not living by its own constitution. Congress's Shashi Tharoor pasted the party constitution on Twitter and mocked it by calling it a jumla. Many on social media mocked the BJP over Parivarvaad or dynasty politics. A close look across parties makes BJP no different than others, with many in the party fold now carrying on the Parivarvaad legacy. The BJP Foundation Day politics peaks in midst of a slew of events planned by the party to commemorate the day. The celebrations for the party will end on 14th April, the birth anniversary of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, which many read as also a political statement. Bureau Report, India Today.
All right, so at the back of the BJP's Foundation Day, there's a massive debate that is ensuing, especially the opposition attacking the BJP, saying that Parivarvaad is as much there in the Bharatiya Janata Party as there is there in any other political outfit. I'm joined by our panelists this evening. I have Tuhin Sinha, spokesperson Bharatiya Janata Party. I have Aishwarya Mahadev, spokesperson Congress. Rasheed Kidwai, senior journalist. Tushar Gupta, senior editor, Swarajya. Tuhin Sinha, you know, when it comes to Parivarvaad and Rashtravaad, even where Parivarvaad is concerned, you know, the list is rather long when it comes to the Bharatiya Janata Party. You know, to begin with, Piyush Goyal, Anurag Thakur, Jyotiraditya Scindia, Dharmendra Pradhan, Kiran Rijiju, Pema Khandu, Suvendu Adhikari, Parvesh Verma, Dushyant Singh Chautala, Poonam Mahajan, Jayant Sinha, Rahul Gandhi. The list can go on and on and on for the Bharatiya Janata Party.
Well, Preeti, there is a fundamental difference over here which you are conveniently ignoring. Simply based on pedigree, while you can enter politics,
I'm not ignoring
the BJP
anything.
does
I'm just
not give you
asking
a position based on pedigree. So that's the difference which I'm explaining to you. In the Congress, it is the legitimate right of the descendant of the ruling party to assume power. In the BJP, all of the people that you've mentioned right now, whether it is Piyush Goyal ji, whether it is Kiran Rijiju, they have worked their way up. And in fact, their fathers held, I know Piyushji's father was not as successful as him. So I think there is a fundamental difference which you are conveniently ignoring.
Point number two, if you look at the list of party presidents, his way into the party fold.
So even after being the General Secretary of the party in Uttar Pradesh and winning the second or the third time, he's not a minister. Is he complaining? That's the spirit of the BJP. In the last 20 years, if I name the presidents of the BJP, whether it is Nitin Gadkari ji, whether it is Amit Shah, whether it is JP Nadda ji, all of them come from their first generation politicians. They have worked their way up, some, pasting posters at the start of their career. So the difference is very visible.
Tell me something, look at the Congress party. From where you come from, Maharashtra.
Whether it is TMC, whether it is Shiv Sena, whether it is DMK.
Mr. Sinha, where you come from, Maharashtra, Pankaja Munde is in the BJP on the basis of not that she's her father's daughter or something else?
No, I think, Preeti, there is a clear comprehension problem over here. Pankaja Munde may have entered the party, but she was not even made the minister during Devendra Fadnavis. That is the fundamental difference which I am explaining to you. Unlike the Congress party, unlike the TMC, unlike the Shiv Sena, where the descendant of the ruling party naturally assumes his position to be that of a ruler in the, in succession, that is not the case with the BJP. Every descendant of of an enlightened pedigree has to really work his way up, and many of them don't succeed. A classic case is Manohar Parrikar's son, who did not get the ticket. He was asked to contest from another seat, which he refused.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay, Aishwarya Mahadev, I want to bring you in. There's a fair point that Tuhin Sinha is making. He's given the example of Mr. Parikar's son. I'll give you another example, Rita Bahuguna Joshi, who tried very hard to accommodate her son into the BJP fold in the Uttar Pradesh election. Didn't happen, and he defected to the Samajwadi Party. There's a fair point that Tuhin Sinha makes, that it's not your birth-given right to rule, and that is there where your party is concerned. In all probabilities, we'll see a Gandhi again, the party president.
Good evening, Preeti. I think we also acknowledge that it's not somebody's rule by birth or that they have a right by birth to be a Congress party president or any party president. But in the Congress party now, every Congress worker very strongly resonates with the leadership of the Gandhis. But second, Preeti, let me get down to one singular thing. But before that, I will say, it's almost like when the BJP does it, it's not a sin. But when any other party does it, it's an absolute wrong. And that is how Tuhin's hypocrisy is seen. But Preeti, tell me this. It's the BJP Foundation Day. You've come off the high of so many election wins. You should have a positive agenda. And you see the Prime Minister here come up and talk about Rashtravaad and, family politics. And you realize that this is what they're bereft of. There is no positive agenda to take forth. This is just an us versus them. And for Prime Minister Modi, he feels like he's much better than everybody else when he compares himself to the other dynastic parties, or so he claims, while his own party is mired with a lot of dynasts. Singular agenda. If you're talking about the BJP Foundation Day, tell them how they can do better. Tell them how they can aspire to do better. When you seem to have claimed that you've defeated all your enemies and all the other parties are immaterial to your democratic existence, it is extremely funny that a Prime Minister would sit and spend so much time sitting and ridiculing other parties. Maybe that comes from a deep-seated insecurity. And the fact of the matter remains, whether you're a dynast, whether you're not, it is about how you prove your mettle on the ground. And there are some people who make it, there are some people who don't. But yes, there is an added advantage of being a dynast. Both parties know it. It's not like you're keeping them out. And when you say certain people have been denied ministership or whatever, Rajnath Singh's son, we all saw that article about the skirmish about getting him a ministry. We all saw the internal dissent about people being left out. Don't say you're not allowing dynasts because you're trying to be fair. You're not being fair. You're trying to obviously play your own cards. And this is extremely funny that for a foundation day, for a prime minister, instead of talking about his own party, he talks about everything else. This is akin to them talking about everything except Achhe Din and Vikas. And that, I think, is the reality, Preeti. And please ask them, how does it matter
I know you want to respond. May I bring in our other two... All right, may I bring in our other two guests also? I have Tushar Gupta and Rasheed Kidwai. Okay, Tuhin Sinha, you want to respond? Quickly respond, and then I'll bring in our other guests.
Just 20 seconds. Only a dynast would not be able to see the virtue, the positive agenda in cleansing politics of the cartel, of the monopoly that dynast had created. We are creating room for first generation deserving politicians. I think that is an extremely positive agenda.
All right,
But
okay.
why sit and trash other
Tushar
political
Gupta,
parties instead of
you've seen
positive agenda?
Yes. Okay. I want to bring in Tushar Gupta and Rasheed Kidwai into this conversation as well. Tushar Gupta, you've seen, the rise of the Bharatiya Janata Party. What's the difference? Because if you look at it on the 39th foundation day of the BJP, the kind of academia around it, the kind of language around it was very, very different than what we see now. I'm not just talking about the 39th, I'm talking about the many, foundation days earlier before you had the cult status of a Narendra Modi. 39th foundation day I talk about primarily because at that point of time, Mr. Advani had written a very detailed blog. A lot of it is pretty much what the BJP is going against the grain of today.
See, two things. Today, what stands between the BJP and a credible national opposition in India? We all keep dwelling about that there is no opposition. We keep talking, where is the opposition? Where is the option? What is that one factor which denies Indian parliament a credible opposition? It's the Gandhi family. You take out the Gandhi family from the political equation, you might actually have the Congress doing better. Now, the Congress spokesperson here says the Congress leadership is something the cadre resonates with. I really want to understand this resonance the cadre has with the Gandhis, which after losing the elections of 2019, after losing Bihar, Assam, Manipur, Goa, Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal, and even Kerala, wants to stick with the Gandhis. You make the point about Piyush Goyal, about Anurag Thakur, about Scindia, even who has been inculcated from the Congress. Now think about this. Did Scindia find himself automatically elevated to Minister of State or a cabinet minister? Did Piyush Goyal automatically get elevated to a cabinet post? Did Anurag Thakur, by virtue of where he comes from, immediately become the Himachal CM? No, they've all worked their up to the party. Piyush Goyal, before 2014, was a BJP spokesperson.
Tushar, there are many other names as well. Like I gave, we're not talking about a Pankaja Munde, we're not talking about a Pankaj Singh. There are many other names.
No, hold on. Let me complete this. The major difference is that if
Jiten Prasad today finds himself as a part of the Uttar Pradesh cabinet by the virtue of what? That he's a very strong leader? No. He lost his last election with the Congress. There can only be two reasons. Family legacy, the name he enjoys, number one, or he's a Brahmin face.
No, by that logic, what are the Gandhis
still doing being
contestants to the Gandhi presidency, the party presidency in the Congress? The question is of merit here. If tomorrow Anurag Thakur was to perform poorly as a minister for sports and INB or lose the Himachal Pradesh elections, there would be some churn within the party. Do we see a similar churn within the Congress election after election that the Gandhis have lost? No. The question is of merit here. The difference is of merit here.
Fair point. Rasheed Kidwai, Rasheed Kidwai, a lot of people, might call what happened today a classic sign of arrogance, talking about dynastic politics, other parties. Why should the Prime Minister do it, on his party's foundation day? But the fact is, he's brought the party to a position of abject political dominance. He's earned it in terms of, even if you say it is, the swagger or whatever, way you'd want to call it. And the writing is there for the Gandhis to read on the wall.
Yes, Preeti, indeed. Preeti, it is success that defines everything in politics. The Prime Minister and the BJP and the intellectuals, they all are talking about Gandhis because Gandhis are not winning election. Had Rahul Gandhi won his own election in Amethi in 2019, and if Congress had over 100 MPs in parliament, today nobody would have been talking about this Parivarvaad. Why nobody is talking about M.K. Stalin? Why nobody is talking about Jagan Mohan Reddy? Because they are successful. And successful people are respected and admired. They are not mocked. The Congress is being mocked because they are losing. Patrick French's book mentions that 30% of elected representatives in India at all levels are second or third generation dynasts. Now the Prime Minister and the BJP are very cleverly trying to shift the goalposts. They are saying, no, it doesn't matter if it's at entry level. The real challenge for the youth that Prime Minister was talking about at the entry level, this is unfair system. If a dynast comes in, then that person, the ordinary worker, is denied, at the entry level. What happens next is inconsequential, whether you are a treasurer of a party or a president of a party. The whole narrative revolves around success. Indian voter is insensitive to dynasty. And Prime Minister Modi knows. That is why from Aparna Yadav to, all the names that you have taken, he has packed it in the BJP. But because he is winning, he's a success story. That is why he is saying this narrative and getting away with it.
Well, fair enough, fair enough. Aishwarya Mahadev, I want to bring you in this conversation. The fact is, it's not a Rasheed Kidwai saying it, it's not a Tuhin Sinha saying it, your own party is saying it. Many senior leaders of your party is saying it.
Preeti, the singular metric of success is elections. Yes, that's let's say, the tyranny of democracy today. But I still maintain that the Congress party, at some point, there is going to be a turnaround. There is a lot that is happening. And as a card-carrying member of the Congress, who has been very successful in the state in terms of membership and bringing in more Congress people to the Congress, I can tell you assuredly that we do have elections. And who the party chooses will be president. And that is a procedural matter for card-carrying members of the Congress party. And this idea of an opposition, I think Mr. Tushar has written off any opposition for however long, and he seems to be doing a better job than Tuhin. But the singular fact I'm still asking is today, and every foundation day of the Congress, you can look at what we talk about, right? We talk about the idea of India. We talk about secularism. We talk about the ideals that we need to value. And here you see somebody who is sitting and obviously doing this one-upmanship, a game of one-upmanship. And it shows how morally bankrupt they are of any idea. We are grappling with price rise. We are grappling with communal tension more than any time before. And I come from a state which has turned into the factory for this experiment. And you see the Prime Minister without a positive agenda,
may I add to this? The fact is, you talk about the idea of India. The fact is also that you have lost 5 elections right now that have just concluded. Is it possible that your idea of India is not connecting to the people of India, and it is the rhetoric, whatever you might call it, which is finding its resonance?
Preeti, I think the idea of India and what it was envisioned to be is something that is always going to remain the same. The electorate seemed to have moved beyond where floating bodies in the Ganga still seem to resonate and give votes to a particular party. While the idea of us not wanting to be partisan, us not wanting to be divisionary is something that doesn't resonate. That's a deeper introspection for my party. But I think there are certain ideals, no matter what it is, that we will not bow down or change those ideals. And I think that is what the Congress is, and how that finds resonance against with the people of this country is something that we have to look at. But Preeti, the situation today, and for a Prime Minister to not have a positive agenda and not talk about the issues at hand and instead trash the opposition who he thinks is dead anyway, shows you exactly what their agenda is. They have nothing else to talk about. And I'd really like to hear what was the positive agenda in that speech, except the spite and the vitriol at other parties. And one last point, Preeti, they talk about patriotism. We don't need any lessons in patriotism from the BJP, and that's a fact. Everybody knows their history.
All right, okay. Tuhin Sinha, there is merit to the charge that Aishwarya Mahadev made. This was a day to be gracious, to appreciate the kind of political stature that your party has acquired over the last 42 years. A lot of rhetoric, a lot of blaming the other parties, all of that could have been avoided.
Well, Preeti, let me, Aishwarya's abstraction will certainly do Rahul Gandhi proud, so good luck to her. But let me simplify what the Prime Minister said today. See, for us, the BJP, the country is our family. For the opposition, and that includes almost every opposition, whether it is Congress, whether it is TMC, whether it is Samajwadi Party, their family is their country. And when we believe that the country is our family, the whole guiding principle for us is Deen Dayal Upadhyay's Antodaya and integral humanism. For them, it is self-aggrandizement. And look at what is happening in Maharashtra, where 3 dynastic parties have virtually looted the state to an extent where you have 1,000 crores worth of, Hawala scam taking place. One ex-home minister presiding over an extortion racket through certain police officials. This is what they bring to the table. I think the Prime Minister was rather gracious today instead of actually, giving these examples.
That is a matter of another debate, because the opposition calls it selective and using. The opposition says that's using the state machinery to target the opposition. So that's a matter of another debate. But, you've made those points. I want to bring in Tushar Gupta and Rasheed Kidwai back into this conversation because, both of you studied the Bharatiya Janata Party. I want to ask you, Mr. Gupta, a question which I asked you earlier, which you didn't quite respond to. Where is the BJP actually going? When you ever looked at the foundation day earlier, look at the blog by L.K. Advani, everything that has been said in the blog, many would suggest that the BJP is going against that, the very grain of that. The fact that the celebrations of the foundation day will conclude on the 14th of April, which is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's birth anniversary, something and someone that the Sangh had lots of divisive issues with.
See, I don't think we need to narrow down the agenda of the BJP as a party or the NDA as a government as to what is said on the celebrations of the Foundation Day. That's a very narrow perspective looking at things. To say what L.K. Advani had in his blog on the 39th Foundation Day, yes, there are contrasting thoughts. The way Modi and Amit Shah think is starkly different to what perhaps L.K. Advani thought, but it's all in the nationalist spirit. They all are working towards the better of the country. That is what that matters at the end of the day. And today the Congress spokesperson can say, oh, why did they choose this occasion to point out the faults within the Congress? Why did they have to take a dig at the Congress? The truth is, for the last 30, 40 years, BJP has fought hard against the Congress more than any other party in India, more than any other regional party. So today, where they've made that success story, as Rasheed Bhai correctly points out, where they've attained the success, you will see these digs being taken. I don't see where the problem is. Why are we narrowing down the agenda of the BJP as a party and the government to what is being said in one Foundation Day celebrations? There are tons of press releases that come out on various works.
Rasheed Kidwai, not so myopic, but the fact is, it's a party that has adapted over the years, that has figured, how to actually connect to the people of this country and talk their language, and that is what we've seen happen through the course of the many days.
Absolutely. I think, Preeti, we must give all credit to the BJP, in particular Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the way he has shaped, the BJP as a political force. You look at the time when Indira Gandhi was there or Rajiv Gandhi was there, it was not that opposition was bereft of towering, leaders. There were some very good leaders who were there, but they could not, pin Indira Gandhi down. And this has happened. This is a phase. See, to say that because there is dynasty and because there are Gandhis, the Congress is not doing well. Preeti, do you think, because you travel a lot during elections and all, have you come across a single voter who's a BJP supporter would say that if, Rahul or Sonia or Priyanka are not head of the Congress, they will dump Prime Minister Modi and the BJP and then start voting for the Congress? I think this is a very elitist way or a superficial way of explaining it. It is BJP era. Let's face it. It will go on. Regardless of what Rahul does, or if Congress president is replaced by a non-Gandhi, it is not going to make on electoral terms. It's not going to make any material difference.
All right, I appreciate all four of you for joining us this evening. Thank you there. Well, food for thought. We're going to leave it for our viewers to decide on, whether it is the BJP's vision, nationalist vision of India, or the Congress's vision of India, as Aishwarya Mahadev elucidated through this conversation, this debate, which actually ties into India's vision of India on what the citizens think. Well, right now it seems to be the BJP. 4 states, they 1 out of 5, retained them. The Congress, nothing. And like Rasheed Kidwai also says, it's about success. If the Congress was successful right now, would Parivarvaad be even a matter of debate? Not quite. A quick break to stay with us. Up next is Shivarur.